The language families of Africa. So this is, I think, the fourth video in this kind of series of going through the continents and regions of the world and just talking about the language families they have. But yeah, we'll just get straight into it. This is going to be an interesting one. So, of the 1.216 billion people that live in Africa, it's the second most populated continent. A believed 1 to 2,000 languages are spoken. So 75 of these have more than 1 million speakers, and the rest are obviously spoken in like more smaller, more regional communities. If these languages are very old, which a lot of them are, they're generally spoken in like the equivalent of villages, so very small groups of people. And a lot of these are spoken only, so they have no written form, which is kind of a bit different from kind of an Anglo-American, like, English-speaking point of view, where you've obviously got written form and then you've got spoken form, but a lot of these are only spoken. They have no way of actually writing stuff down, which would be a change if our language was like that. So these languages generally break down to 4 large families. You've got the Niger-Congo family, which I've mentioned it, but we haven't talked about it yet. The Nilo-Saharan family, Afro-Asiatic, which we have talked about, and the Khoisan family. There's also a 5th major language group in Africa, but it's only in one country, which is the Austronesian family, which I also haven't mentioned, and it will be talked about a lot in my Languages of Oceania video, which will probably be next, but we'll only talk about it a little bit in this one. So, as far as major language families go, Niger-Congo is the 3rd biggest language family in the world, with between 1,350 and 1,650 languages, and it's got over 600 million speakers. So this is obviously behind Indo-European, with 3.3 billion speakers, and Sino-Tibetan with, 1.5 billion, I think. I'm trying to remember this. I don't have notes of this apart from the PowerPoint, sorry. But yeah, it's the 3rd biggest language family. And it's the biggest in Africa, in that continent. And some of the most commonly spoken languages of the Niger-Congo family, you've probably heard of Swahili. It's actually not that difficult to learn as well. It has a lot of classes, which is kind of like, I'll explain that in another video, we won't go into that, but it's not too difficult to learn as far as I know. That's got 200 million speakers. Yoruba has 45 million, and Igbo has 30 million. They're all of the same branch of Niger-Congo, which is on the next slide, and Fula, which is an Atlantic branch of the Niger-Congo language family, has 35 million. Niger-Congo languages are also split into, I just said that, sorry. That's on the next slide, we'll talk about that. Afro-Asiatic, I've talked about that already in my Languages of the Middle East video. It has between 200 to 300 languages, and they're mostly found in Northern Africa, so we did kind of talk about the MENA area in the Middle East video, which is the Middle East and North Africa, so I think it's between Morocco and Iran, which is, I believe Morocco is western. Let's have a look at the map, I don't even need to guess. Where's Morocco? On here. Yeah, that's right, it's top west of Africa. That's kind of where I thought it was, but yeah, basically. Yeah, so that is the other major language family, and then you've also got Nilo-Saharan, which has 80 languages, and Khoisan, which has between 40 and 70. These two aren't major language families, like Afro-Asiatic and Niger-Congo, but they are still quite big in Africa, and these 4 are the 4 biggest. So, here's just a map I wanted to show. If you're looking at the one on the left, that's got the language families of Africa. So Afro-Asiatic is generally spoken around the northern part of Africa and over kind of near the Horn, and yeah, it's the lighter coloured, like kind of yellowy parchment colour. Those are all Afro-Asiatic languages. So a lot of them are probably Arabic, like we've discussed in our Middle Eastern video. And towards lower down, you can see most of the continent is covered in orange, which is Niger-Congo, which is the largest language family. And you've obviously got red for Nilo-Saharan and light green for Khoisan. As you can see, Austronesian, the only place with that dark green colour is Madagascar, which is this island here to the side. So we'll talk about that in the last slide, because I don't really want to talk about Austronesian languages too much in this one. But yeah, the map on the right, we'll come back to that one. So Niger-Congo branches, I'm just going to go through all these. If you want to read more about them, it's too much to include in one video, but I'll try and put some links in the description of websites you can go to that I read to kind of understand this. So you've got Benue Congo, which is, as I said before, Swahili, Yoruba, Igbo, and it's also Shona, Zulu, Luba, Kasai, and Tswana. The only one I'd heard of those, apart from the first 3, is Zulu. So the other 3 I hadn't heard anything about before, so it's interesting learning a bit about them. Then you've got Fula, Wolof, Saracen, and Themnet in the Atlantic branch. I probably won't go through and read all of these just because I am conscious of the fact that I'm not going to pronounce them right, and I mean, it is what it is, but it's just kind of irritating to go through and go, okay, I've said every single one of these wrong. So yeah, if you want to pause the video and have a look at them, all the branches, that's them. But yeah, that's basically Niger Congo. I believe there is more branches as well, but these are the main ones. But anyway, Nilo-Saharan, so about 70 million speakers of these 130 languages in Africa are largely around the upper parts of the Chari and Nile rivers. So there is a linguist called Joseph Greenberg, who I also hadn't known about, but I've learned about him for researching this video, who wrote a book called The Languages of Africa in 1963, which has been really important in how languages and language families are classified. So he argued that Nilo-Saharan was a genetic family, but a lot of it is kind of debated how related these languages are, because a lot of it includes languages that don't belong to either Niger, Congo, Afro-Asiatic, and Khoisan groups, which is the next one we're talking about. And so a lot of people have called it Greenberg's waste bucket, which is basically he made a family and chucked everything that didn't belong with the other stuff into it, because it contains a lot of the non-click languages of Africa. Click languages obviously have that kind of like clicking noise in them. I just made that noise with my mouth. I don't know any of these languages. But yeah, those are the ones that are considered click languages. So I believe Zulu, Xhosa, which is meant to be pronounced with a click, Xhosa. I don't know how to say it properly, so that's just, we're going to leave it at that. But yeah, a few examples of Nilo-Saharan languages are Luo, Kanuri, Zama, Tiso, and Nubian. And then you've got Khoisan languages. So this is the smallest of the four major African language families. Obviously, we're not counting Austronesian. I mean, I'm actually not sure how big that is, because I haven't looked into it that much, but it's between 40 and 70 languages, and it is generally believed to be the oldest. It was also classified by Greenberg, like I mentioned before, and it's primarily is clicking languages that don't belong to either Niger, Congo, or Afro-Asiatic groups. Koe, I have no idea how to say that, sorry. I'm learning with a lot of these things. This is kind of me almost documenting part of my learning. I do know a fair bit, but definitely not about African languages. It's kind of out of my area of stuff I know stuff about. But yeah, it's the biggest Khoisan language with 250,000 speakers, and it's much more common than the rest. The rest are all 5-digit numbers of speakers at the most. So yeah, if you wanted to look into that, you definitely can. Leave a comment, tell me something. I'll put my email in the description if you have. By the way, if you ever want me to make a video about something, feel free to comment it down below. You can email me with any questions about literally anything, and I'm happy to make a video about it or email you back. So anyway, moving on. Austronesian languages. So, I talked about it before. On Madagascar, as you can see on the left one, is the only place where there are Austronesian languages spoken. So, the reason Madagascar, the island of Madagascar, is the only place where Austronesian languages are spoken is because of Austronesian speakers had brought their language to there, which I'll talk about in a second. Basically, Madagascar's two official languages are French and Malagasy. Obviously, Malagasy is the Austronesian one, and it is the westernmost Malayo-Polynesian language spoken. So I briefly mentioned Austronesian languages in my Languages of Asia video, I think, and it breaks down into Malayo-Polynesian and one other category, which I can't remember. It divides into two, and then from Malayo-Polynesian, it further breaks down into like Oceanic and Western. But as far as Malayo-Polynesian languages go, which is the one of the two main branches of Austronesian languages, this is the furthest west, and the reason is because it was brought to, Madagascar by the settlement of Austronesian speakers from the Sunda Islands. And it's interesting because they actually don't know exactly when. There's estimates of the 5th century, but then there's also estimates of between the 7th and the 13th century. So that's kind of between the 400s and the 1400s. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. The 400s and the 1200s, which is quite a lot of time to estimate they came there. So that there mustn't be that much evidence as far as nailing down a concrete time. But yeah, that's interesting. Sorry for going further straight away than I meant to. I'm really bad with technology. But just going back to the second map I had before, that is a map of these Niger-Congo branches, and you can see how it goes down. Just if you wanted to have a look at that, it's probably too hard to analyse, and I don't know enough about that. I just put it in, and it also says down the bottom, less than 20% of languages are shown due to space, which just goes to show how culturally diverse Africa is. But Africa is the most genetically diverse place on the planet, so good way to segue into that, and the diversity of its many languages definitely reflects that. In the theme of these videos, I've just found a random flag off Reddit. That can be the flag of Niger Congo languages. It is completely unofficial. I don't even know if it was intended for that. I just think it looks cool, and hopefully it isn't already being used by someone and that person just ripped it off and didn't tell me, because I literally just saw it and copy pasted it. So yeah, there you go. If you are looking to learn a language, I have a special present for you, and it's completely free, and you don't even have to wait for a important day. You can literally go there now. So it's called headofstate.com.au. It's my website I'm working on. It's completely free. There's no sign up, and basically it is going to help you learn a language. So it's got resources for every single language. It's completely free. As I said, you can find your language, say it's Spanish, French, Mandarin, German, Russian, literally whatever, Italian. And it's got links of websites, YouTube videos, and explanations. And you can literally just go through and learn everything. If you're having trouble with something, you can seek it out. Or you can go from the beginning where there's an explanation and teaching about the alphabet or whatever. And you just go through and learn every single link in order. I've set it up for you to basically go through and just learn the language. And once you've completed every link, you should know the language. I'll have a link to the website in the description. I'll also have my email. If you have any questions or suggestions or anything, feel free to email me. The website is currently under development, so it doesn't completely work. So if you are actually trying to learn a language right at this moment, you might find it's a bit difficult depending on how well it's loaded, because it is quite a big web. There's a lot of files that need to load, but I will have it up and running within the next few weeks, at least for the first few languages. I'm working my butt off on it, basically. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. I would appreciate if you liked and subscribed. These videos can be painful to make, even though they're only made in PowerPoint, and it does make me feel better about how much time I'm investing for free just to kind of teach people and document my learning. So yeah, if you could like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that. And if you want to see anything, leave a comment, tell me, and I'll make a video about it. So yeah, thank you guys, and I hope you're entertained.